There's nothing quite like a little bit of reminiscing, and thinking back to the tech that we used to think was cutting edge brings up a very special kind of nostalgia. Here are 5 more tech gadgets and devices that changed our lives back in the day, but have since been made obsolete by newer, bigger, and better technology. The floppy disk, an item that seems to be a complete relic these days, unknown to anyone born after the millennium, was a stiff square that held a grand total of 1.44 megabytes, if you were lucky. Sure, that's nothing now, but back then, that was pretty decent. In the 80s and 90s, it was a standard way to save documents, install software, and transfer files. They came in multiple sizes over the years: 8-inch, 5.25-inch, and the classic 3.5-inch. Floppy disks were fragile, easily corrupted, and painfully slow, but they were all we had, so it's not particularly surprising that once USB sticks and cloud storage took off, floppies were left in the dust. Today, they're more useful as coasters than data storage, but they laid the groundwork for everything that came after. And as a sweet ode to its past prominence, the floppy has somehow become the save icon in most software today. It may be hard to believe now, but back in the day, the slide projector was the star of the show at family gatherings, school presentations, and office meetings throughout the second half of the 20th century, and even the first decade or so of the 21st. You'd load up a circular tray of 35mm slides, dim the lights, and watch your holiday snaps, or charts, or whatever you needed, appear on a white screen with a satisfying click. They weren't sleek, and the bulbs always seemed to blow at the worst time, but there was just something kind of magical about the warm, flickering images. But as digital projectors and laptops took over, the humble slide projector quietly retired and became obsolete, condemned to spending the rest of its days tucked away in storerooms from where they'd never return. But still, if you find one in the attic, it's worth a nostalgic spin. Before smartphones and GoPros, there was the VHS Camcorder, big, heavy, and often balanced awkwardly on your shoulder. These clunky machines recorded directly onto VHS tapes, which made home videos easy to play back on your TV. They were essential for family holidays, school plays, and birthday parties. Released in the 1980s and booming throughout the 90s, they made everyday people into amateur filmmakers, or so they thought. But they were bulky, batteries didn't last, and tape quality degraded over time. Once digital camcorders and smartphones came along, the VHS camcorder faded into obscurity at a rate of knots, although your parents probably still have a dusty one in the cupboard, along with some cringy home videos to go along with it. Cassette tapes were a soundtrack to the 70s through to the early 2000s. Small, portable, and recordable, they gave people the power to make their own mixtapes, rom-com-worthy romantic gestures, road trip soundtracks, or just taping songs off the radio, complete with DJ chatter. You had to rewind or fast forward to find the right track, and tape sometimes got chewed up on your Walkman, but they had a charm that you just don't get from digital files. As CDs and digital music took over, cassettes mostly disappeared, but recently they've made a minor comeback among collectors and indie bands for that lo-fi retro vibe. Before calculators, and long before calculator apps, mathematicians, engineers, and students used the slide rule. It looks a bit like a ruler with a moving middle section, but it could perform complex calculations like multiplication, division, logarithms, and more. It looks a bit like a ruler with a moving middle section, but it could perform complex calculations like multiplication, division, logarithms, and more. It was actually surprisingly powerful for something completely analog, and it was an essential tool in most offices and classrooms. Slide rules were a staple in classrooms and labs right up through the 1960s, even used by NASA during the space race. But naturally, once pocket calculators became cheap and accurate in the 70s, slide rules were quickly retired. But still, they remain a fascinating relic of an age when maths meant sliding plastic, not tapping buttons.